This is the Bleav in Pro Wrestling podcast. Here's Rick Ucchino and SP3 on the Bleav Podcast Network.
Yeah, feeling it on a Thursday night. This was so much fun last week. Screw it, we'll do it again. Rick Ucchino, Jeremy Bennett here to kick off the show. SP3 will be joining us momentarily, so don't you fret, don't you worry. SP3 will be here as, we don't have a whole lot to really talk about today, do we?
We don't. Nothing broke today.
Oh my gosh, I like, seriously, we were going to record the show for today. Like, we were going to drop it at 7 a.m. like we usually do on Thursday. Extenuating circumstances had to push it back. I could not be happier that we had to push it back to prime time. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling loose. I ate ribs for dinner. I feel great right now. I got my pumpkin spice coffee because I'm a pumpkin whore. I am feeling good in the neighborhood right now, and we got so much to dive into from today's report about CM Punk and what a pipe bomb from Sean Ross Sapp and everybody else involved with all of that was going down last night. It seemed weird in the moment, Jeremy. It seemed a little weird in the moment when Punk hopped on and just randomly challenged Hangman Adam Page last night, as we will bring in my boy SP3 here as he is still getting situated. But welcome to the show.
There he is.
SP3. How's it going?
How's it going, y'all?
Oh, we're doing good. You haven't missed much. We just got underway here. Wasn't quite sure when you're going to come in, so I went ahead and jumped the gun just a little bit to make sure we were on time. We're a punctual bunch here on Bleav in Pro Wrestling. But, just kind of setting the mood. Not a whole lot to talk about today, yeah? Between, CM Punk and NXT UK and Kenny Omega returning. This will be about a 5-minute show, I think, tonight.
Yeah. 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's not like somebody's champion may have quit or may quit.
Seriously, if you guys have not caught up in all of the drama surrounding CM Punk and AEW and Hangman Adam Page last night, we are going to dive into that. We're going to let SP3 fangirl all over Kenny Omega's return last night and talk about the possible ramifications of basically NXT UK as we know it coming to an end.
Well, before we get into all of that, I know my good friend Jeremy Bennett here, he put it on Twitter, but I just wanted to remind everybody that last Thursday when we did the podcast at this time, I legitimately called Nick Gage versus Jon Moxley for the GCW World Championship. No, I am not friends with Brett Lauderdale. I just watch a lot of Game Changer Wrestling, but I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, didn't somebody on this panel predict Effie was going to win the GCW World title?
I
and
did.
Then there might have been a mention about edibles and some other stuff that was.
I did. I thought it might happen. I didn't realize Gage would be this close to being back either. Plus, I'm not going to be surprised if Gage wins and retires, to be honest with you. I don't know. I just don't feel like there's much left with him.
We shall see. That's all coming up on what's going to be a loaded September weekend, Labor Day weekend, or at least so we thought, because All Out may have just taken a major hit. We will talk about the strangeness surrounding the fact that Jon Moxley and CM Punk unifying the titles, arguably the biggest match in AEW history, is now taking place on Dynamite in Cleveland instead of All Out in Chicago. Absolute insanity. We appreciate everybody who's joining us here on this primetime edition. Steven, what is going on? Safet, what is up? Frantic World and Noob, we appreciate all you guys tuning in here tonight. We're going to be with you for about the next hour or so because, again, we got a lot to dive into. But before we get started on all that, got to thank our friends over at BetOnline. Fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, events with first-to-market odds and lines. Get reviews and news. Try to combine those two words for every league: Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, golf. It's all there. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting to props and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today or grab onto your mobile device. You're probably on it anyway. Join today. Make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BLEAV 50. That is BLEAV 50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts. Guys, let's dive right into all of the just absolute insanity. I figured Kenny Omega would have been the lead story today, but no, it is going to be CM Punk and the possible trouble in AEW's paradise. You want to talk about a difference a year makes. It was a year ago at this time that CM Punk was coming into AEW, first time back in wrestling in 7 years, and he was rejuvenated and he was loving it. And this was the guy who's going to carry the company into the next stratosphere, right? From upstart, punchy rival to WWE to, okay, here's Punk, here's Danielson, let's effing go. They got Cody still there. My, how things have changed now. When we get this report today, first off, it was reported last night from the Wrestling Observer that CM Punk's promo on Hangman Adam Page last night, where he calls out Adam Page at the beginning of his promo, says he can have a rematch right then and there. He sits down in that, cross-leg Indian style that he's so accustomed to doing, waits about 30 seconds. Hangman doesn't come out. Punk calls him a coward and then moves on to Jon Moxley. So that seemed weird, and it got people like my dude Jeremy over here saying, well, maybe they're setting it up for Hangman Adam Page and CM Punk to get that rematch after All Out is over. Then the Wrestling Observer reports that Punk was not supposed to do that, or at least nobody knew that Punk was going to be doing that. And I believe the quote from Brian Alvarez went into business for himself and really kind of punked out Hangman Adam Page last night. I mean, that whole situation made Hangman Adam Page just look bad on the surface. And that's a weird situation, because why would Tony Khan do that? Why would he punk out one of his top baby faces, even though he's not the AEW World Champion anymore? He's still one of the most over dudes in the company and somebody that you can hang on to and build around for a long ass time. So that goes down. We get that report. Suddenly things start making sense. And then Fightful Select adds on top of it. So they released this lengthy report, and I'm going to read it in its entirety because it can get a little confusing. And I know some people misconstrued some quotes here from Sean Rossap. So let me read this, and then I'll let my boys in on this one. So CM Punk challenged Hangman Page to a rematch on the August 17th episode of AEW Dynamite, which would have been last night. According to the Wrestling Observer, that was not planned. We at Fightful were able to confirm this. Punk defeated Hangman Adam Page at AEW Double or Nothing earlier this year before being forced away from the ring for several months. Before that, however, there was word that Punk and Hangman Adam Page did not see eye to eye on some promo material that emerged on the episode of Dynamite that built up their match. Fightful has been told that it was that it was to the point that CM Punk met with AEW higher-ups about the context of Hangman Adam Page's promo. Voices of Wrestling had noted that they had heard Punk had told others after the meeting in May that he would not lose to Hangman Page. Fightful was told by several within AEW that they felt the situation that unfolded on the August 17th episode of Dynamite, again last night, was unfair to Hangman Page if he wasn't aware of it. One even said, even if he was aware of it, what would he have done? Charged to the ring past Tony Khan, interrupted a promo he knew he wasn't supposed to be a part of. There was no way Hangman could have won in that situation. We were told that Hangman Adam Page was in the building, but have not heard that he responded in any particular way. Those that we spoke to said that Hangman isn't a confrontational person and is genuinely well-liked among the roster. The belief among several on the roster, okay, that's the important thing here that we spoke to, is that it was believed that Punk believed Hangman went into business for himself leading into their Double or Nothing match, and Punk may have seen last night's promo as a receipt. It's important to note that the locker room speculation, locker room is speculation as opposed to Punk telling anyone that directly. From Punk's end of things, there was a Hangman promo that he had said that alluded to Punk's issues with Colt Cabana, and that did not sit well with Punk. There was also another promo that happened during a week where Punk wasn't at the show that accelerated it. They say that Punk's shot at Hangman happened with Hangman present, and that's how the person close to Punk justified it. Sources familiar with the situation claim that CM Punk has often verbally expressed his displeasure about things, including recently, so blatantly that they thought he might end up quitting the company. Those close to him said that he might have almost decided to stay home instead of coming to last night's Dynamite, but do not think that he would have quit. We have not been given any indication that he plans on leaving AEW, but one veteran said they have heard of threats being levied. Fightful was also told that Moxley versus Punk match for August 24th on Dynamite next week was a late decision. They haven't been told how late. When they asked for context from higher-ups, they did not receive any. SP3, lot to unpack there. Your overall general reaction to that very lengthy report that I botched several times there.
CM Punk is upset with the company and threatening to quit and walk out. I feel like I've heard this before. That was my initial reaction to this, and it was just like, already? Come on, like, dog, like this whole thing, like, I've heard people, and I've shared the report with CM Punk fans who tell me, oh, well, Punk likes to work the dirt sheets and try to build stuff up through the dirt sheets. And I'm not saying he's not, but I'm saying if he did, I don't think he realized that this makes him look bad. This does not paint like how he came off on the show. Yeah, on the surface it did make it seem like Hangman Page was called out and didn't accept the challenge, so it made him look bad. But everything that we've heard since then has made CM Punk look bad and like a diva backstage, and I don't know if this is the best look for him, even though this is kind of par for the course as it seems. I'm a huge CM Punk fan. I enjoy what he's been able to give to AEW, and at this point I kind of do believe the reports from Observer and especially Fightful with CM Punk kind of going into business for himself with that line, because in a lot of circumstances CM Punk is the John Cena of AEW. He can pretty much go into business for himself and say what he wants to say, because what the hell is Tony Khan gonna tell him? I'm gonna fine you, I'm gonna suspend you and cost myself money for the next pay-per-view that you have been basically delivering the highest pay-per-view buy rates for this company every single pay-per-view that you've been on. And is he really going to do that? No, that would be dumb. So he can go into business for himself, but it's going to take Tony kind of smoothing things over, and it's just not a good look. And this kind of puts on more weight into the argument that there's unhappiness and miscommunication backstage in AEW. We've heard all of those reports, but I think this is kind of the biggest evidence of that.
Yeah, Jeremy, when you look at this, man, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with SP3. This puts this is a huge headache that Tony Khan doesn't need right now, and he's almost powerless to do it. He has spent a piss ton of money to bring CM Punk into this company. He has strapped his World Heavyweight Championship on top of CM Punk. And not only that, he has vehemently gone to bat publicly for CM Punk, saying, this is my guy, this is my dude, let's go. And now all of a sudden he comes out and he does this. And if, again, let me stress, if all of these reports are accurate, and this is exactly how it went down, Jeremy, here's a very interesting question. How does Tony Khan trust CM Punk moving forward? Because I think this definitely creates trust issues that were not present before.
Yeah, I mean, if he ends up losing the trust of Tony Khan, and this is actually everything that's being reported is real, the only thing he can do is just keep Punk off of TV.
A lot of money for somebody off of TV. I think he's already doing that with MJF, except, well, MJF's not making as much.
My initial gut reaction was Punk did this to twist Tony's arm into making him a heel. I think Tony is being reluctant to make Punk a heel, and I think Punk wants to be a heel now. I honestly the more I think about it, I think it's a work, just like the MJF situation. I kind of wonder if both of these are coming to a head. I wonder if they're bumping up this match with Mox because somehow MJF is on his way back here all of a sudden, or Hangman's getting involved in this whole thing as well. I don't know. I think it is Punk's way of twisting Tony's arm to make him a heel, though. And if this is related to MJF, where we get these reports that make it seem like this is not a work, but in the end it is, and maybe they played us all. I don't know. But it is interesting that they bumped this up, because especially the way that it came off and played out last night, they did a great job of setting up the main event for All Out, only for it to now happen next week. So whoever gets that next week, is it in Cleveland next week?
Yeah, it's in Cleveland, which again has the Johnny Gargano crowd going absolutely.
He's trending out. He's trending on Twitter right now.
Johnny trending. He'll be trending for another week at least, until he doesn't show up next week. I genuinely don't think he's made up his mind yet, but we'll see how things shake out there.
I kind of wonder if there were two people in the room that knew that what Punk was going to do, and it was him and Tony Khan.
Look, that could totally be the case, but it has also been reported that Tony is not one to work his employees, which is why everybody feels like the MJF situation is so is not a work, at least those within the company. And MJF has not been heard from since he called Tony Khan a fucking mark live on Dynamite. He has not been seen since. I mean, it's if they are working all of us, good on them, great. They might be watching all of these shows right now. They may be watching right now, just laughing their asses off. And if they are, hey, hit that thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, and cool, you got us. But I don't know if this is a work, who benefits? Because it makes Punk look bad, it makes Tony Khan look bad, and it makes Page look bad.
Punk wants to look bad because he wants to be a heel.
SP3.
I don't think it makes Hangman Page look bad. Hangman Page looks like the victim out of this. It definitely doesn't make him look bad. This actually helped what happened yesterday, because Hangman Page, like you said, on the surface, when Punk said what he said and he didn't come out, it did make him look bad. But everything we've learned since then has made Hangman Page look like the victim in all of this, and it garners more sympathy for him. And especially what the report talked about, that he was in a no-win situation and it wasn't fair to him at all, because what was he supposed to do if he did know about it? Was he supposed to go out and storm ahead of Tony Khan and go out there unscripted, away from what Tony wanted to do with Mox and Punk? And if he wasn't aware of it, then it's extra he's a victim, and a victim of the circumstances here. So this, honestly, this was the best thing to happen to Hangman Page, was this report coming out.
I meant in the moment it made Hangman.
Remember the Triple H promo he cut on Punk about when he's not the top guy any longer and doesn't get what he wants, and
I saw somebody tweet that out earlier and said, who would have thought Triple H was the babyface in this situation?
And all of a sudden, a lot of that kind of is coming into play now, if all of this is true. But no, Hangman, and it's kind of funny, like Silver tweeted out, like, as it happened, he's like, this is why he couldn't come out. He was busy eating.
Yeah, and he probably was. He was probably
because he didn't know he was getting called out.
He's probably on Twitter like, wait, what the hell just went down in the ring just now? Like, what the hell is going on? So, and I'm sure a lot of people were like that. And what sucks here is we're talking about this and all this backstage drama, whether it's real or not, who cares, right? It's a great storyline. It's juice. That's what we love about professional wrestling, is the storytelling. And when it blurs lines, it's great. But the focus should be on that spectacular exchange, SP3, between Mox and Punk last night. This was the war of words that we were all looking forward to. My scorecard gave a very, very slight edge to CM Punk last night. I thought he had more zingers, more one-liners that really kind of hit home, but Mox definitely held his own. This is what I've been looking forward out of these two. And honestly, there was part of me after they were done that went, all right, well, what the hell do you do from here? Because that was perfect. Let's go. Let's get to Chicago. And maybe Tony Khan felt the same way.
Jinxed us. You jinxed us all. I wanted more. I wanted more of this, because honestly, Moxley held back. Moxley, alluded to stuff like Punk, this title is about fighting spirit and you lost your fighting spirit years ago. And like he could have divulged more next week and said like, hey, like in this same city of Cleveland, you walked out of one company and left the business, left it behind, left it to nearly die, while I left that same company and went here and revitalized the business and made the business more money for all the guys out there because I care about wrestling. Like Moxley could go more in than he did last night. So this like they gave Punk the platform to kind of say his witty one-liners about the third best guy in his group, and that seems to be a reoccurring thing, which was a great line. And he's only the second best Jon that he'll beat in Chicago for a championship, and he and his best friend is the third best Eddie he's been in the ring with, and the second best Kingston he's ever shared a locker room with.
Which everybody scrambled to try to find what the number 2 Eddie was.
I know. I heard a lot of people being like Eddie Edwards when he never shared a locker room with Eddie Edwards.
Eddie Vegas, who in the Indies, and then some people said Eddie Fatu, who was Umaga.
I don't know if somebody whose shoot name was actually Eddie. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if Umaga and Punk ever crossed paths. I think
they did for a couple of times back in like 2007 and 2008, I Bleav.
Like Eddie Vegas was digging deep in the cagematch.net website was where people were getting that out of. So
yeah, people didn't know that off the rip. So
I did love people on social media like rushing to find photos of Kofi Kingston to tweet him out. There was one where he's just sitting there like I think it was like right after he got called out for not having a Jamaican accent, and somebody said Kofi just minding his own business, catching strays on AEW last night.
Like, hey Kofi, how's it going, Kofi?
Yeah, there was a lot of funny WWE references in that promo last night.
Yeah, and that's the thing is there are funny WWE references, but they didn't overtly beat us over the head and scream WWE, which was great. It flowed.
And they weren't even bashing WWE.
No, actually, Punk was complimentary of WWE. Punk put all the WWE people over Jon Moxley last night.
Maybe this is all for Punk to get out of this contract and go to WWE. I'm kidding.
Well, there is a tampering story we're going to talk about coming up here, and maybe we'll play everybody's favorite game, Reckless Speculation.
Somebody said Eddie. I made that joke on the internet last night about Eddie Gilbert.
Who is Eddie Gilbert? Can somebody?
Oh, he was
hot stuff. Eddie Gilbert.
Hot stuff. Eddie Gilbert wrestled in the 70s and 80s.
Okay, all right.
Mostly NWA, JCP, right? Jim Crockett kind of,
and
around
ECW.
There. Oh yeah, ECW.
Stephen Chambers asking, any word how long Punk's contract is with AEW? I think it was 3 years, wasn't it? Or they just say multi-year contract?
Yeah, most everybody signs either a 3 or 5 year deal with AEW, and you would tend to think with Punk's age, he probably signed a 3-year deal. Like I see there's a comment with someone saying MJF's going to sign with AEW with WWE very soon. Unless you mean very soon be in 2024, I don't consider that very, very soon because we're in 2022, sir. But trust me, if MJF and Tony Khan are on the out, MJF going to be sitting on his butt for another year and a half.
Yeah,
unless Tony lets him out of it.
I mean,
I don't see him doing that.
Nope.
You kind of got to do the WWE move of letting him. Sit it out.
I mean, this is WWE's move to a T. Hey, we're not going to use you. We don't see any value. I mean, how long did they have Brody Lee on the damn bench in WWE before they finally set him free and he was able to go have the run that he was able to have?
Yeah,
in AEW.
Pac was longer.
Yeah, FTR, they kept tagging
for months.
Yeah, and then they tacked on with FTR when I think Cash got hurt.
If the pandemic didn't hit, would those guys even have been released? Like in all seriousness,
probably not.
Wyatt definitely not. Strowman definitely not.
We're in a different world now, folks. We got people coming back. It's all good here. So everything about last night was great, and then they come back, right? Like they had the terror part. Everything was great. We figured that's the end of the segment. Tony Nese is coming down. I'm getting ready for the bathroom break match. I'm kidding. Anyway, I'm getting ready for the bathroom break match. Tony Nese is coming down. Mox clotheslines the hell out of him and just knocks him down. So they gave him the referee bump for the night. One one wrist to the back of the head, and Tony Nese, the superior athlete, is out of it. And Moxley comes down and he calls out CM Punk, and then there's another pull-apart brawl, and then we get that great moment where Claudio just one arm picks up Moxley and carries him over to the other corner of the ring.
Taking his kid out of the toy aisle.
Yeah, pretty much, man. And great. Another pull-apart. This is heated, awesome, sweet, cool. And 20 minutes later, we get the announcement that the title unification match that we are all expecting to headline All Out in Chicago, where it makes sense, is now going to take place on Dynamite next week, free television in Cleveland. Like, come on, Cleveland is highly overrated, but come on, what are we doing?
God, it's like, your first thoughts were time limit draw, DQ, some weird shit, but God, now this news comes out. Now this news comes out, and it's like, wow, I don't know what's going on now.
Part of me is wondering, because you hear that section again from Sean Ross at Fightful Select. I'll read it for you guys who missed it again. Fightful was told that the Moxley Punk match for the August 24th episode of AEW Dynamite was made very late. It was a late decision. We haven't been told how late, and when we asked AEW higher-ups for context, we didn't get any. So there's part of me that's sitting here thinking, what if Tony Khan just made this decision last night based off of conversations that he had with CM Punk after his whole Hangman Adam Page thing, which also makes me wonder who the hell is winning this damn match next week and how this is all going down. And that's something that we'll dive into once we get into the 5 count, but it's just something to stew upon there for a quick moment. SP3, one final segment comment before we move on.
I do know that Will Washington of Fightful on his podcast Day After Dynamite today, he did say that he heard about 4 days ago that they had something big planned for Cleveland. So what I'm guessing, and this is me just reckless speculation of the report that Rick read, is I think that, Punk had frustrations due to the whole Hangman Page thing that dates back to May, but I think his recent frustrations may have to do with the change in the map. Maybe Tony Khan has something bigger planned for All Out at this point. I think the only thing big enough for All Out, if it's not Moxley and Punk, it's MJF coming back into the situation, whether it's Punk versus MJF back in Chicago or a 3-way with Mox, Punk, and MJF. Like MJF comes out and causes a whole big schmoz ending where AEW doesn't do the schmoz ending enough for it to be annoying. And plus, nobody was expecting this matchup to happen on this show, and I think most of us will be okay if it leads to that type of big matchup. But I'm sorry for all the Hangman Page fans in the live chat. Hangman Page being involved in this situation is not big enough to do Mox and Punk in Cleveland. It has to be someone as big as MJF. If it's not MJF, it could have been Kenny Omega, but Kenny Omega's already back and he's in the trios tournament, so it has to be a star on that level.
Imagine the pop if MJF just shits on that title match and screws it all to hell.
I thought you were about to say shits on the title, like literally.
Well, he might literally do that just for
could you imagine the nuclear heat on that one?
Yeah, Medusa throwing it in the trash. Watch me take a shit on it.
That will put a whole new spin on Moxley saying this title don't mean shit until I beat CM Punk. You brought up the man himself, Kenny Omega. He did return last night to AEW. SP3, we saw this coming a mile away. We knew it was going to happen. It did not make the moment any less special, any less awesome last night. No. You get Justin Roberts on the microphone, breaking down everything, all of his accolades. He got here in the North Carolina again last night, was great. And then that awesome, I forgot how great Kenny's music is. That awesome fucking song just hits home. West Virginia erupts last night. Kenny Omega comes down. He is strapped up. He's got the compression shirt on. He's obviously still not 100% last night, or at least that's what they were trying to portray, that he was not 100% last night.
I think
so they couldn't work this there, but still, it was great to see him. We knew at that point the Elite were going to win and advance in the Trios Championship tournament. They did that. And then Andrade and Roosh decided to just beat the shit out of Homeboy afterwards. It's like one of those
30 seconds to end.
but wait, there's more. That's
JR. My God, what are they doing? Goodbye.
They did the Johnny Gargano NXT, right? They put up that little graphic. Oh, it's over. Oh, wait, no, it's not. We got a little bit more for you. So a lot happening at the end there. But again, I wish we were focusing more on Kenny Omega's return than we are the drama between Punk and Hangman and what all that's going to mean. But still, this was a great moment last night, SP3.
Yes, it was the moment I was waiting for. And Kenny Omega, if you are really believing Kenny Omega, he didn't look 100% because that's the story. Yeah, that's the story he was going for. This dude, if you looked at his physique, he did not need to wear no Russian shirt. He's doing it all for the working. I Bleav that, probably he's not 100%, but when this man was at 75, probably 55% as AEW World Champion, he won the Wrestler of the Year, the PWI #1, like Justin Roberts.
Spoiler alert. No wrestlers at 100% ever, period. So
exactly. And I think people miss that point. If you really think, oh man, he looks still looks hurt, you miss that was the point of the whole story of the matchup. The story of the matchup is Kenny came back not at 100% because the Bucks needed them. He was the Young Bucks Hail Mary for this trios match, and they had an awesome, very fun main event. Dragon Lee was the MVP of that match because that man is nuts. That torpedo suicide dive to Kenny into the front row was
awesome. Landed on straight concrete.
He landed on people.
Insane. That man is insane, and he was working to get a contract. But I'm very happy Kenny Omega is back. The trios tournament is very interesting on the left hand side. I'm very interested to see who comes out of next week's matchup with Death Triangle and the United Empire. I think it's going to be Death Triangle, which every time the Young Bucks and the Lucha Bros are in the ring together, it's an instant classic. And every time Kenny Omega and Pac are in the ring together, it's an instant classic. So
part of me wants the other way to go around, though, just to have Ospreay and Omega in the ring.
They're keeping those two.
No, thank you, Rick. Yeah, that's Wrestle Kingdom. I think at this point, especially after Ospreay had the match of the year this morning against Kazuchika Okada, and he came up short in the G1. I think the only he has multiple matches he could do at Wrestle Kingdom, whether it's against guys that he lost to in the tournament like Shingo Takagi or David Finlay for the US title, or they can, build it out with him and Shibata for the US title based on what happened at Forbidden Door. But I think there's no bigger matchup for Ospreay than him and Omega at the Tokyo Dome, and especially because it's one night of the Tokyo Dome, that's your double main event. You do Switchblade and Okada for the world title, and you do Omega and Ospreay for the US title, and try to sell out that Tokyo Dome. That's what I want to see. Or next year for Forbidden Door. You need to save that for those type of big show. You can't do it on the go home show basically of Dynamite going into a pay-per-view. If he was on the opposite side of the bracket, hell yeah, I'm with you. Make Ospreay and Aussie Open, make it to the finals. But I think the finals is going to be Dark Order with Hangman Adam Page versus the Elite.
Yeah, and I still think that's the direction they're going to go, because I don't think, even with all this stuff that Punk has set up now, or whatever he was trying to do last night, that the story is Hangman being involved in the trios title, and I think he's going to help. On SP3, I love the idea that you brought up either earlier this week or last week, where the Dark Order starts dropping like flies, whether or not it's due to injury or this, that, and the other, and you end up with Hangman now having to wrestle in the finals. I think that is the direction that they need to go.
Yeah, that'd make the finals really interesting.
Yeah.
If Hangman had to join the Dark Order against the Elite, that would be the best kind of storytelling, so to speak, of that tournament.
Steven says Wrestle Kingdom, Omega versus Ospreay. Yes, please. And I do believe there was a report that AEW superstars are going to be involved at Wrestle Kingdom. So I think
you said there's only one night this year, or this coming year. They're not doing
Yeah,
the 2 days?
it's just January 4th. January 5th is going to be New Year's Dash. So I think that, yeah, we might see Omega on the card. I would love to see Bryan Danielson and Zack
Yeah.
Sabre Jr. And Lance Archer was amazing in the G1, and he just seems like he's a different type of performer on New Japan than he is in AEW. So
Is he
he's
still in
another guy that kind of,
AEW? Is he-
you know, well, he said his goodbyes on today's show for the G1 final, so he's heading back to AEW. Hopefully, Tony Khan watched some of the G1 and saw how to really present Lance Archer.
Yeah, I was gonna say it seems like the only time Tony books him is when he needs to make somebody else look strong, right?
Yeah.
Like he's the
Never
big,
been the guy yet.
yeah, he's the big oaf, he's the big oak that needs to get chopped down to make somebody else look bigger and better, and he's enhancement talent basically.
Did they say why they went back to the 1 day thing, or was just the 2 day thing a pandemic thing?
I think well, they did the 2-day thing the first time in 2020 before the pandemic. So
right before,
2021 was just kind of, they already had planned to do a 2-day thing, and 2022 kind of the same thing that they just kept going with it. But I think it's better off as a 1-day thing, because I will say, like, especially earlier in January this year, it felt like we had a lot of matches that really didn't feel like Wrestle Kingdom. Like the last couple of matches on both night cards were good to great, but the whole card didn't feel like Wrestle Kingdom. If they can give us a Wrestle Kingdom card of 10 matches that all feel important, sprinkle some AEW guys on there as well, those are the type of cards that is the show of the year. Wrestle Kingdom hasn't been the show of the year since 2020.
MCASP saying Hangman versus Punk can be at like Full Gear or Winter is Coming. I will say this much: if Punk does hang on to the title, they have set up several opponents for him last night that they could go to. I still think Eddie Kingston gets a shot in New York, no matter who the hell the champion is at that point. And I think Eddie versus Punk makes a ton of sense. But I'm still wondering who's going to be champion here after Wednesday. Which
Did you see Eddie's tweet last night?
Yeah, I think he said see you next Tuesday. I Bleav is what
he used the C word. He had a C in there. There was
Yeah,
a C word.
he said this SP deleted only says something when I'm not there.
I wouldn't be surprised if they put the title on Kingston in New York.
I would love to see him. Like he's not going to get,
man. His whole gimmick is that he's basically AEW's Mick Foley.
Exactly.
Eventually,
Foley won the title,
but you know how
seats.
long that took? You know how long that took? Foley came into the company near 95, 96. He didn't win it until 99. We're only in year 2 of Eddie Kingston, and and even when Foley won, he won it for like a day and then lost it to The Rock
That's all he needs.
repeatedly.
That's all Kingston needs.
That's all
he needs.
It ain't gonna happen anytime soon, but Punk versus Kingston, I feel like that's the type of match that could sell some tickets for Grand Slam in Queens, which I'm going to. And New Japan announced October 28th they're having a show in Times Square in New York City, so I'm gonna try to go to both New Japan and AEW.
SP3, you're still over in the UK right now, where there was a major announcement today regarding WWE and the fact that NXT UK, as we know it, is no more. There seemed to be a lot of momentum and a lot of theories that NXT UK might be folding. But instead, WWE, at least the way they're spinning this, saying that they are now expanding and they are going out to NXT Europe now. So basically, NXT UK is basically NXT UK is contracting, it's going away, and they're opening up a new thing called NXT Europe. And it could not, the fact that I think at last check there was only maybe 5 or 6 dudes and like 7 women from the entire NXT UK roster that are still with the company, because several people unfortunately were released today. So this is like, hey, we're expanding, but are we really here? It seems like everybody that they feel like they wanted to keep is now on NXT 2.0, and everybody else ended up getting released today. SP3, kind of a weird situation they got going on here.
Only WWE can do some shit like this. I don't curse very often, but this shit is ridiculous because it was plain as day that this NXT UK brand it failed. It failed. They tried, but it failed. The pandemic put a snuff to that. It was building very well. They had great takeover shows in 2018, 2019. I would say Takeover Cardiff is one of the best takeovers ever, and I know that a lot of people don't consider the NXT UK takeovers a part of the takeover kind of history, but Cardiff with Walter versus Tyler Bate is one of the greatest matches to ever take place on any takeover. It's one of the greatest matches in WWE history. You heard me right. Yes, one of the greatest matches in WWE history is Walter versus Tyler Bate. Tyler Bate is amazing, so I'm glad that he still has a job and he's working with NXT, and he seems like he's going to headline the next event with Braun Breaker. But for all intents and purposes, NXT UK failed. It failed. And only WWE could try to gloss over that. Like, oh no, they're going on hiatus for a few months. And we're opening up NXT Europe. We're making our global localization, the thing we were talking about years ago. You remember when Triple H did the PowerPoint presentation? Like, we're going there. We're going NXT Japan. They called up New Japan. They were trying to put New Japan out of business. Going to be the competition for New Japan. They're going to India. They're going to Africa. They're going to South America. Basically, they sound like Howard Dean when Howard Dean was running for president. I'm going to Kentucky. I'm going to Washington. Like, WWE, just cut it out. You should have just closed NXT UK and say we're gonna rebrand things and we're gonna try to open up NXT Europe. But no, they lost their big Mercedes car and they got some broken up Bronco and they're like, hey, we got a Bronco. We got a Bronco over here. We sold the Mercedes, but we got a Bronco. Don't worry. That's WWE. NXT Europe. Good luck with that.
Yeah, we should have known something was going on, Jeremy, when all of a sudden the NXT UK tag team titles like made their way over to NXT 2.0 like a month ago.
Yeah.
That should have been a big something's going on here, and I totally missed it.
Yeah, like, and but then it was like it seemed very obvious Tuesday night when the floodgates opened.
Yes,
with Blair Davenport and Gallus and
Tyler
Bate, and then that really said, "Oh, it's dead, And then, well, did they give any details about what this NXT Europe thing's going to be outside of this 2023? They really didn't, did they?
Not that I read or not that I saw. Like they just said, "Hey, at NXT UK, we're shuttering for a little bit, and then we're going to open NXT Europe." And I'm like, "Okay, that sounds cool and all." And then all of a sudden, they're releasing half the roster, pretty much anybody that didn't show up on NXT 2.0.
Yeah.
So
at least the guys that could be stars here, they kept. Gallus is really good. Obviously, Blair Davenport's a great talent. Tyler Bate, hopefully Trent Seven comes over. Those are some good talent. Obviously, you had a taste of Mustache Mountain when they came over in the black and gold days. So a lot of people still remember Tyler Bate. I think him and Braun could put together a good match. I would love to see Braun get called up and Tyler Bate be an NXT champion. I think that would be kind of cool.
Yes, he did, Queen, by the way. Didn't Trent get released?
Oh, did Trent? I didn't see Trent. Okay.
Yeah, he did get that. I believe. I'm 90% sure that he was one that got.
I saw a whole list of them on Fightful earlier, but I didn't see Trent's name. So
I'm 90% sure. I will double check on that. I'm almost positive that I'm trying to find it.
Oh, they're still coming in. Like Amir Jordan just confirmed his release. That just dropped about 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, it looks like Trent is on the list, right? So Mark Andrews, Zaya Brookside, Eddie Dennis, Saxton Huxley, Amir Jordan, Danny Luna, Dave Mestif, Mackenzie, Primate, Nina Samuel, Shaw Samuels, Sid Scala. I don't know some of these people, so I apologize if I'm saying this wrong. Trent Seven, Ashton Smith, Jack Stars, T-Bone, Tierman, Flash Morgan Webster, Kenny Williams. So
yeah, they didn't do a didn't do a separate article on Trent Seven, so that's why I didn't see it.
Yeah, so Trent is one of the ones that was let go. So again, we hope everybody, and maybe once NXT Europe launches in 2023, they'll bring some of these people back. You never know, but yeah, it has been an infusion of NXT UK talent that has been coming over. You had JB McDonough, who got a title shot earlier this week, and Braun Breaker held on to it. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Came over,
a
few months ago. So yeah.
I haven't seen Pretty Deadly in a while.
They were
last
in a
week.
segment.
They aligned with Lash Legend.
Yeah.
Okay, I completely missed that. So it's NXT. Who cares? All right, guys. We got some major implications going down from what happened on Dynamite last night. So let's dive into all of this, shall we?
It's time to answer the 5 count on the Bleav Podcast Network.
All right, so we know the title unification match has been moved up to next week. We're going to do something we haven't done here before. We're going to combine 1 and 2 together here on the 5 big questions on today's episode, because I need to know who walks out as AEW World Champion next Wednesday. And if this match really does go down, what on God's green earth is the world title match at All Out? Jeremy, you have the floor, sir. First, good sir.
Punk walks out because I don't think we're going to get a finish. And I don't know, I wonder if MJF is on his way back for All Out.
That's a very popular theory. No evidence to support it, but that is a very popular theory.
I just wonder if MJF's going to interject himself in that match, and it's a triple threat. The fact they moved a legitimate star-powered main event at your marquee show,
it's arguably the biggest match in the history of AEW.
And they moved it to Cleveland, tells you that I think a certain guy that we haven't heard from in a while is they got some plans for.
No, that could be a myriad of people, not just MJF. You still do have some big names out on the free agent market that they could bring in. I think the only guy that is a free agent right now that could make a bigger match than like what SP3 was alluding to earlier would be maybe if they bring in Bray Wyatt. But
yeah,
that's, maybe this is a guy who hasn't wrestled in quite some time now. So, and you don't have a whole lot of time to heat him up. I mean, we're 18 days out here, guys. Yeah. This is really weird. Until this report came out about everything that's going down with CM Punk and Hangman, my initial thought process on this was, okay, Tony Khan wants to keep the belt on Moxley because he has been so white hot, but he doesn't want to take it off of Punk in his first defense. So my thought would be next week, Punk completes the heel turn by cheating to beat Moxley to retain the championship or unify the titles, and then they do the rematch in Chicago where Moxley gets his win back. That was my only thought process on this. That's how that would go down, to give Punk a title retention, let him win one match, let him to finish his heel turn, and then you give us the rematch in Chicago. And Moxley can win it there, or Eddie Kingston gets involved and he accidentally costs Mox the match, or he costs Punk the match and sets up the feud. Moving on there, a lot of options, but that's the only thing that made sense to me. SP3 is why they would make this change and move it up this fast.
Yeah, I mean, after last night, I thought there's only a few possible scenarios here that you have CM Punk win and then MJF returns and we get MJF versus Punk at All Out for the championship, or MJF comes back and he interferes and calls a no contest and we get the triple threat to determine the undisputed champion at All Out, or Punk Punk just outright wins and sets up something else, or they do the draw to set up like a bigger matchup like Lights Out or a steel cage match at All Out. Those were the scenarios that I thought of. But after this report, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Jon Moxley walks out the AEW World Champion. My answer might change tomorrow. My answer might change when we're done with this stream. But for right now, I'm going with Jon Moxley, new AEW World Champion. And God knows Sean Ross Sapp is going to be a busy man coming out of Wednesday night, because there's going to be a bunch of reports about CM Punk possibly leaving AEW if that happens.
Yeah, like pulling the curtain behind here. So I was actually messaging, Ross Sapp today, because we just, we bullshit from time to time. And all of a sudden he stopped responding to me. And then about 2 hours later, that report came out. I'm like, oh, that explains why the man ghosted me. Okay, we cool. We fine. He gets a ton of messages.
Anyway, bad signal came out.
Yeah, absolutely. So anytime he doesn't respond, if like we're in a mid conversation, I'm like, oh, he got something cooking, because that man has always got something cooking. I agree with you. After this report came out, I'm fully in the belief now that Moxley's winning, but I have no idea what the match is in Chicago, because what can you set up in this short amount of time? And if there is something going on with Punk, and so much so that you have to rush this to get him out the door or to put him back on hiatus or whatever you're going to do, what does this do to your all-out card altogether, which right now is looking a little thin? You got your women's world title match set up, at least we think. We'll talk about that coming up in a minute. You're going to have your trios finals, which, okay, if it's the Elite versus Hangman, Adam Page, and Dark Order, great. That's a nice setup there. But then what? Like, what else are you putting on this card? Because you don't have a whole lot set up right now.
Jungle Boy and Christian.
Yeah, Jungle Boy
and Christian, Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks. Okay. You got Jericho and Danielson.
That is going to get
Eddie Kingston and Sammy Guevara. They got plenty of stuff, actually, when you really think about it, because the show, other than Punk and Moxley getting rushed till next week, they kind of did a good job of kind of laying out the foundation for the rest of the card. FDR and Wardlow versus, as I just got a comment on our AEW Dynamite review over on True Hill Heat, their stable name is now 2 Indians and a black guy. Jay Lethal, Santam Singh, and Sanjay Dutt.
Oh boy.
So they got about 6-7 matches on the card, even without Punk and Moxley.
It still feels like there's a massive hole without Punk and Moxley, though.
If this is a work, maybe Tony's just trying to pop a rating before.
Oh, I think he definitely is, because last night's rating wasn't the best for AEW.
They lost to the Housewives.
Their demo was down. Which Housewives? Which one are we on?
The Real Housewives of some town.
I didn't know if it was Desperate.
That was the number one show. They were number 2 on cable last night, and the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills or whatever the hell it was number 1.
Y'all watch some effed up shit, man.
I don't watch. I was watching Dynamite. Damn it.
I'm talking to the public. I'm talking to the people at this point. Y'all watch some effed up stuff, but then again, we watch wrestling, so it is what it is. Yes, absolutely, you're right, DJ Duke. Athena and Jade should be on this damn show.
What about the tag title match?
Acclaim versus the Gun Club again. Probably. That was one thing I didn't like about last night. I'm like, can we end this damn feud already? This is one that seems like it's
scissor me, daddy ass.
I mean, Billy Gunn just whooped the Acclaim's ass like 3 weeks ago, and now he's back to scissoring Anthony Bowens. Okay, whatever. Not. I think another thing we might get is another. Go ahead.
Drew a pop.
They're the sons that Billy really wanted. He wanted some black sons.
It's true.
He's like the father from Different Strokes.
It's like, but this thing's like 2 weeks away. What do you do with Swerve and Keith Lee? I mean, do you just not put this on the card? Like,
I thought about it, and I was like, why would they do the whole Roosh and Andrade turning and being out of the trios when you have, they did the whole setup where Andrade put Private Party in that AEW World Tag Team title shot. I think that's now going to lead to Roosh and Andrade versus Swerve and Our Glory.
I wouldn't be surprised if we get another trios matchup as well, with House of Black going up against Sting, Darby Allin, and Miro. I think that's another option that is going to be on and frankly, that match should be on the card.
That'd be fun to watch Miro tag with Sting and Darby, though. That'd be kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly enjoy that. One thing that I definitely enjoyed watching last night was Bryan Danielson and Daniel Garcia.
God.
Let's
have the Iron Man match it all out with those two guys. How about that?
Okay. Well, now it's going to be Danielson and Jericho, and I totally brain farted on the fact that that was going to get added to the card, and they definitely set that up last night. And it got set up last night because it looked as though Daniel Garcia had earned the respect of Bryan Danielson. It looked like there might have been a handshake, and then Chris Jericho rushes down to the ring, and he blasts Bryan Danielson, and he starts beating him down, and then all of a sudden, Daniel Garcia goes, "No, sir. No. What the hell are you doing?" And that is now setting up the possibility that Daniel Garcia could either join the BCC or remain in JAS. So, SP3, I'll ask you first. Where should he go? Should he stay in the JAS, or should he join the BCC?
It's a fairly obvious answer for me. It's Blackpool Combat Club. Like, Wheeler Yuta is Jon Moxley's young boy because Wheeler Yuta earned Moxley's respect with that bloody war that they had in April on AEW Rampage. Now, through these series of matches with Garcia and Danielson, Danielson has now found his young boy, and the whole mission statement of the Blackpool Combat Club was to get younger talent and put them underneath these guys. Now,
is this like the Jedi? Like you have the master and each one has their own Padawan? Is that what this is?
Absolutely. Yep. And then we just need Claudio to find his. Claudio needs to beat up
Moxley's his young boy. Moxley's his young boy.
I was going to say, let's call them masters and Padawans, because sitting here saying they're on the hunt for young boys sounds wrong. So
I watch a lot of New Japan. They use that term "young boys" all the time. Don't think crooked because you're American.
But out of context, that sounds dirty. It's kind of like the guy that the guy on Twitter said, like, "A kid is law" or "A kid is released" or something like that, and he didn't put the hyphen between A and kid. Some people are like, "What are you talking about, bro?"
A kid was missing.
A kid was missing. Yeah,
a kid was missing. But no, he needs to join the Blackpool Combat Club, because I think the Jericho Appreciation Society has already kind of played its course. Without Vince McMahon around, it doesn't really make sense, and the joke is missing the mark when you're calling yourself sports entertainers, and now the company that made the term up are calling their guys wrestlers. So it's time to kind of wrap up this Jericho Appreciation Society story, or go back and just, get rid of Garcia and just make it Hager, Jericho, and 2.0 as the new Inner Circle, or Inner Circle 2.0.
And Sammy's back in the group too. So
yeah, Sammy.
Sammy J and Anna J.
Yeah, and Anna J. So I mean, it's all JAS doesn't need Daniel Garcia anymore at this point. And honestly, I don't think Daniel Garcia needs JAS. I think JAS did exactly what it was supposed to do. It elevated his position on the card to the point where I don't necessarily think that Daniel Garcia needs to be in Blackpool Combat Club either. Like, I think that this is a guy who could be on his own, and I think Tony Khan relies a lot on factions because he's trying to get as many people onto the show as possible with only 3 hours of live television, and sometimes Rampage isn't even live. So, he relies heavily on factions, but I will say he does need to be in one of these groups, because as we have seen, if you're on your own and you're not necessarily a big name, you get lost in the shuffle. So I'd say, Blackpool Combat Club seems to be the place where Daniel Garcia needs to go.
Well, he bled, didn't he?
Did he? Yeah. I know Danielson did. Yeah, but
Garcia bled last night too. And plus, what member of the Blackpool Combat Club does not have gold right now? It's Bryan Danielson. What kind of gold can he go for? Oh, maybe a tag title with Daniel Garcia.
I wouldn't hate it. Although FTR needs to get their AEW tag team title shot at some point.
Yeah, they only been number one for 5 months.
Yeah, and they're starting to really kind of hone in and hammer that home on social media as well. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I'd say Daniel Garcia definitely needs to join BCC at this point. Yep. All right, SP3, true or false? Tony Storm will be the only challenger to Thunder Rosa at All Out. I know you have been clamoring for a fatal 4-way. Your thoughts on this one, good sir? You seem like you have thoughts.
I didn't know Tony Khan could give me Tony Storm and Thunder Rosa, two of my favorite females in professional wrestling, and me be shivering cold on that matchup, because that is a cold as hell matchup. It's just like, it really makes me question, why the hell did you do that at Forbidden Door? Why couldn't it be Sheeta? versus Thunder Rosa there. That would have made more sense. Why couldn't it have been Rio? I understand you couldn't use anybody from Stardom because they had their own event. I get that. But yeah, you had numerous other Japanese talent, women that have history in Japanese promotions, not just, Stardom, but Tokyo Joshi Pro. You could have put anybody in this spot, especially if you were going to have them be a tag team and then go into this matchup. This matchup would feel so much more hotter if we didn't already have the match at Forbidden Door. It just feels like the promo last week I was so upset about, because it was just like they were talking like they hadn't just faced each other, and now we got this matchup and it just feels cold as hell. And I don't understand why Britt Baker is not in this, because okay, you could say Jamie Hayter is injured, she got the broken nose at Battle of the Belts, fine. Put Britt Baker into this. Britt Baker makes this a lot more interesting of a match. And we all know, Tony, the only female you care about very much is Britt Baker. So why not just throw her into there?
So that's the question. That's the question here. Will they throw Britt Baker in there, or do you think they keep it Tony Storm and Thunder Rosa?
I hope to God, but I think Tony has the audacity to make Tony Storm the only challenger for Thunder Rosa here. So I think it's unfortunately true.
I would say there's plenty of time to add Dr. Britt Baker, but that would require Tony to actually give time to building women's feuds, because he doesn't do that. Last night, Tony Storm earned her number one contendership by beating Kylan King, who was great, but we haven't seen her on television in how damn long. She's been on Dark and Elevation. Frankly, I forgot she was even involved.
She has to leave the company to go work elsewhere for a while.
Yeah. So you could set something up with Dr. Baker.
You got 2 Dynamites left, though.
You got 2 Dynamites left. You got some live Rampages, right? I guess
that's out of the WWE playbook.
It wouldn't take long.
Book your pay-per-view last minute.
Hell, you could book her in it that night at All Out in Chicago. You could just throw her in the damn match. It wouldn't be that difficult to do at all. I do think that'll end up being the case eventually, but this definitely does, this Tony Storm and Thunder Rosa thing. You ask why they booked him at Forbidden Door. I think he booked him at Forbidden Door because I think the match was going to be Thunder Rosa versus Chris Statlander at All Out. Yeah. And then Statlander got hurt again. And now this is Tony's backup.
And that's a bad backup.
Tony going to Tony going back to a match that we've already seen. If you're going to give us a match that we've already seen, go to the one that it's been longer since we've seen it and give us Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker.
Yeah.
That would have made a little bit more. Or give us the triple threat, because we haven't seen that yet.
Because obviously, you're getting tag teams established in the women's division in AEW, and people loved Thunderstorm. So there's absolutely no heat to this title match. There's nothing exciting about it. Plus, we've seen it, and plus, we don't really want to see it because we kind of like these two together. And so,
there's nothing for them to win. There's no women's tag team.
Yeah.
Can we put them on the right side of the WWE women's tag team bracket? Can we do that? No disrespect to Maddie or Sonya, but can we put a tag team that we're invested in into the WWE women's tag team title tournament, please? That would be fantastic. If we could get Thunderstorm over there, that'd be great.
Man,
let's really open up the Forbidden Door,
right?
On this one. WWE apparently tried to go around the door this week. As SP3 and I were doing our live stream on Tuesday, there was a report that was dropped also by Fightful Select, and I'm sitting there trying to read it and trying to understand it as the show was going on, and finally I just realized, all right, I'm not going to get the full scope of it while the show is going on, so I decided to shelve it, knowing that we had another show here today. WWE this week reportedly reached out to a prominent AEW talent who is well known to be under contract, and decided to ask them about a possible return to WWE, to which that talent directed them to their representation, who passed along the note that they are very happy in AEW right now, and they felt that as though they owed it to AEW management to let them know that this had happened. SP3, this a big deal or not?
Yes, it's a big deal. People tried to tell me months ago or last year that it wasn't a big deal, that WWE didn't know that Malachi Black had a 30-day non-compete clause instead of a 90-day non-compete clause. Those same people tried to tell me that it's not a big deal that Adam Cole's contract was expiring in August of last year. So I'm gonna say this is a big deal because once again, it seems like WWE don't know who's contracted to their own company or to other companies. I think that it should have been fairly obvious, and this report says that it should have been fairly obvious that this competitor was signed to AEW. So even reaching out to them can be seen and can be investigated as contract tampering. So it seems like WWE can do this. I'm not saying the report says that it was contract tampering, and I'm not saying it was contract tampering. All I can say is that from the outside looking in, if it smells like a dog, it sniffs like a dog, it looks like a dog, it's probably a dog. And this probably is looking a bit of contract tampering.
So who?
Big deal.
Adam Cole? You think it was Adam Cole?
No, I would, because here's my thought process on this. I don't think that this was ignorance. I think this was straight up, hey, we're interested in bringing you back. How much time you got left? We know you're under contract. This I think was them greasing the wheel.
And is that necessarily legal or illegal, asking them how much time they got left on a deal? I mean, if they slide them a deal, that's illegal.
Okay, again, this is all allegedly. This is all reporting. All right, we're not saying that this is what went down, but in my mind, this to me sounds like, hey, how much time you got left? We love you. We know things ended poorly the last time, but we want to come get you back. We got some big plans. We'd love to have you in here when your contract is up, this kind of a thing. In which case, to me, that's why I'm saying, no, this ain't that really big of a deal, because this happens everywhere. This happens in all walks of life. Hell, the NFL now has what's called a legal tampering period, where free agents before the new league year starts can sign with teams for millions of dollars, even though they're still under contract with other teams now. So NFL free agency really starts 3 days before NFL free agency even starts. So honestly, this isn't that big of a deal to me. Hell, no. I could tell I could tell you about a situation right now in my industry where somebody who was under contract with company A was being greased for a full year and a half. Dude lets his contract expire and then signs with company B. This shit happens all the time. I think this was harmless. Hey, we're just gauging some interest here. When your contract's up, do you want to come back? I think this is all going to be kind of an overblown kind of thing. At least that's how I'm reading into it, because I've seen this play out in other industries before. To me, this is not that big of a deal, Jeremy.
No, it's not. It especially if you're just asking how much you got left,
If that's the case, yes. If it's straight up, hey, we want to get you over here, we don't care if you're under contract for 3 years. Okay, then that's a problem. That's a problem. I'm
more interested in who. Clearly, we're not going to know, because who went to the boss and gave them a heads up. So they're definitely not going to.
We want to play that game of reckless speculation there, SP3, if you had to make a guess. I doubt it would be Adam Cole or Malachi Black, because that was very clearly.
I thought it was Wardlow at first, but then I thought it was Wardlow at first. Then they said returns. And I'm like, oh, it ain't
right.
Wardlow.
Yeah. So this is somebody who was released. I mean, maybe Swerve would make sense with Hit Row.
Oh, with Hit Row.
Back.
Yeah.
Possibly. Hell.
That's a good point.
Maybe it was Jon Moxley, because they said it was prominent. Like, that was the thing. It was like a big time deal.
So like bigger than Keith Lee.
Maybe it was Mox, who is reportedly his contract was supposed to be up earlier this year. Who knows how much time he really has left on that, if he did sign an extension. I could see it being Moxley, because his big thing was always, I hated the creative process. Well, now the creative process is over and done with, and now he's one of the biggest fucking stars in the world. Yeah, let's bring him back and think of all the great shit we could do with him and Rollins and Roman. I could see WWE possibly.
Oh, yeah, and then they'll be like, oh, we can get Renee back on, and Renee can host a new show we can put out there on the Peacock. And
that might be more difficult than getting Moxley, because Renee doesn't want to come back and do. She's talked about this ad nauseum. She doesn't want to come back and do the same old thing. She wants to do something different.
That's what I meant, like a host a new show or something like that.
That's, in my opinion, if they ask Moxley, that's what Moxley would tell them. I don't want to come back and do the same old shit. And who has WWE made a star that would feel big enough for Moxley to come back? Oh, you can verse Seth Rollins for the 4,700th time. Oh, you can verse Roman Reigns like you did so many times before. There's nobody. He went out facing Drew McIntyre, if you want to mention him. He had a long-term feud with the Intercontinental Championship with Kevin Owens. There's literally no one that they've made in the past 3 years since Jon Moxley left that is worth him going back. When he
honestly, the only one I can think of is Cody. Did he ever wrestle Cody?
No, that's the only
that's the only one.
But
that's
like Moxley makes sense.
That came from AEW.
Yeah, Moxley makes sense because it probably has to be a guy whose contract is almost up, or because a lot of contracts came up this year and a lot of people re-signed. Some have like an extra year deal left on them, so it makes sense if it's a guy that's been there almost since the beginning.
Who says it's
I thought it was Miro, because I thought when he was like prominent, there was prominent reports that Miro re-signed with AEW. So I thought it would be him, especially because he's put out on social media being a little bit unhappy. I could realistically see them like going to him.
Andrade.
And y'all don't think it's a big deal to be axing somebody. That's considered contract tampering. In the NBA, that's considered contract tampering, because
but you know everybody does it.
There are ways to find out how much time is on somebody's deal without going to the actual person. Like there's no reason to go to the actual person when you can find out this information by not
pro
going
wrestling.
to them
This
and
the Wild
being
West.
considered it contract tampering.
Yeah, but you know how long somebody has on the NBA just by going to NBA.com. You can find out all the contract details. This is what I wish we knew about.
You can go to Fightful.com and find out how much time these guys.
It's still not full. Like seriously, I don't care how much people make. I wish we didn't know how much they made in the NBA, the NHL, NFL. I wish we didn't care, right? Like, because people resent athletes for how much money they make. I don't care how much money people make. I just want to know, when's your contract up? Like, what's your end date? Like that's all I want to know. Like, how long are you signed? That's all I care about as far as WWE stars are concerned, or AEW stars, but we just don't know more often than not. We do appreciate everybody who tuned in today. Really fun episode, really great conversation. Miro signed through 2026. Was that the case? So
he re-upped.
Yeah, he's locked in for quite some time. So Miro, Adam Page, Malachi Black, they ain't going anywhere anytime soon.
Young Bucks aren't going anywhere.
Young Bucks aren't going anywhere.
Kenny Omega ain't going anywhere.
Well, I don't think Kenny's going anywhere, but his contract's up sooner than you would think, unless he re-up. But because he took so much time off, they could have froze the time and they could have added 9 months.
Yeah, I don't know if Tony's doing that or not. It's a good question.
I think he is. Regardless, always fun to play reckless speculation. By the way, who says it was a guy? They very easily could have called up Ruby
Athena.
Soho or Athena or somebody like that. Like, honestly, I know Athena loves being there, but she hasn't done a whole lot since she's been there. So hopefully,
and Ruby's done less.
Let's hope that Athena, this match that she's supposedly going to get with Jade Cargill at All Out, starts leading, get the ball rolling there. We do appreciate everybody who tuned in. Make sure to hammer the thumbs up. Make sure to hammer that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much. Coming up next week, Monday, my interview with Damian Priest is going to drop on the channel. So make sure to check that out, as he's got a big match coming up with Edge on Monday. So we'll talk a little bit about Judgment Day. Also coming up here soon, ahead of Clash at the Castle, I will be talking with possibly the future SmackDown Women's Champion in Shayna Baszler. So that is going to be dropping on this channel as well. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss all of that. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy SmackDown tomorrow. It's going to be fun. Should be a good time. Maybe we'll get some returns, some more surprises from the Triple H train as it keeps on a rolling. It's the Bleav in Pro Wrestling podcast, brought to you by Bet Online.